So I just saw this video on how to quit a job, and it reminded me of this experience I had in San Antonio. Now, my background had been in corporate work, and I had worked at a Fortune 500 headquarters, and corporate work compared to legal work is a very different animal. Corporate work is like linear thinking. Legal work is like abstract. Just you have this dot and then it goes in all different directions. It's multi-dimensional. But I was curious, so I thought I'll go in and interview for this legal secretary job. Maybe it's an entry-level position. So the hiring manager looked at my resume and she said, I think you can do the job. It was a Thursday. She said, the attorney's out of town until Monday. So, excuse me one second. We scheduled the time for me to come in Monday and meet the attorney. Yeah, I didn't know who else had interviewed, if anybody else had, but she wanted me to meet the attorney. So I live 15, 20 minutes away. By the time I get home, there's a message on my machine. She said, I've decided to go ahead and give you the job. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I'll go ahead and come in. Now, it wasn't what she told me. It was what she didn't tell me that was interesting. So she made a point of telling me that this man was not a partner. So I come in on Friday, and she gives me the policies and procedures manual, which is bigger than the Congressional Budget Office's manual. It's huge, and I had to know the whole thing. Now, my experience with policies and procedures manuals at the most high-level position I had was that I only had to know my portion of that policies and procedures manual. Whereas this one, I kind of had to know the whole thing. I told her, I'm not interested. I'm not that ambitious. She said, oh, I think you can do it. You got the goods for it. I can see it in your resume, blah, 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 blah. Give it a shot. I said, I really don't want it. I couldn't quit. So I thought, okay, fine. I'll come in. I'll meet the attorney. So I come in, and she and I are looking through the manual. And she says, okay, tomorrow when you come in, the attorney's not back. He'll be in tomorrow. Or no, I think he was coming in Wednesday. Instead, he had changed his plans. She said, come back tomorrow, and there's a temp up there now, and he'll be training you the next 2 weeks. And I tried to quit that day, and she didn't let me quit. So I come back in the next day, and I go upstairs to the cubicle. I kid you not. There are stacks of paper, which would never have happened in my cubicle. My cubicles were spotless, and everything was in its place. Well, there are just these stacks of paper everywhere. And I get up there, and the guy must be in his 20s, maybe early 30s, but I think he was in his 20s, and he sees me. I said, attorney sees, name shall remain confidential. New secretary, I'm here to be trained. And he starts stacking this paper, and he straightens it up, and he lays it down in a pile, and he says, I am so glad to see you. Good luck. And he walks away. I said, wait a second, aren't you supposed to train me? He said, no, they said they'd train you. And then he walks away. So I called the lady who hired me. I said, the intern left. And I don't remember the conversation after that. It was something in between, I'm going to help you, or you can do it, or I don't know what it was, or some of the other secretaries are going to help you. Now, what happened was had been embroiled in some sort of office politics chicanery that was going on at this firm. Come to find out, there was a secretary who worked for a junior partner who had applied for this position, but for some reason they didn't want her to have it. And her cubicle mate She was a stinker. She was so funny. She would come by and lean over my cubicle and go, "This job is harder than it seems, isn't it? It looks like it's just over your head." And I'd say, "Well, yeah, it is. It is. I can't quit. I'm trying to quit. They won't let me quit." And she said, "Well, so-and-so wanted this job and they didn't want her to have it." So they're down there talking about me and how terrible I am. And by then the attorney comes back. After a day or two, the attorney comes back and I can hear him talking to other attorneys in the office. I don't know why they hired her. And every time I turned around, I don't know who was coming into my cubicle, but either in between going to the bathroom or whatever, the piles of paper were moving around. I mean, I would set something down and the next thing when I'd go to pick it back up, it was gone, or more papers were stacked on top of it, and I had no clue how they got there. None. And I was told you need to print out all of the incoming emails. And they were coming in at like a rate of 1 or 2 per minute. It was a lot. I thought, who's got time to go through that? I mean, it was like a stack like that by the end of the day of emails. I'm thinking, you can't just go through and read. The attorney can't go through and pick the emails that he wants, or can I star them? I mean, what's the deal with this? And I was supposed to prioritize them. I thought, this place is crazy. I tried to quit again, and that whole week I'm trying to quit. The next week is Thanksgiving week. Okay, so that's 1, 2, so that's 7 days. They're open the following Monday and Tuesday, and then they're closed Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for Thanksgiving. So by the following Tuesday, I'm in tears. I go next door. Now, this was in downtown San Antonio. So the building that was right next to it was a very upscale hotel. One of those old hotels with that woodsy, musty, old fabric smell, And it reeked, but it was so cozy and comfy. And I went and found a place to cry, a corner to cry in. And I called my friend Joe, who used to be in HR at a very big oil firm in the Houston area. I think he actually was the head of HR. I said, "Joe," he's like, "Hey, it's good to hear from you." And I'm crying. He's like, "What's up?" I said, "I'm trying to quit this job and I can't quit." He said, "Well, the good news is Texas is a hire or fire at will job, which means that you can quit or they can fire you the same day. 2 weeks notice is that's a courtesy. You don't have to do it in Texas." So he said, what you do is you send them a resignation email and you say, "I'm leaving my key card and whatever other belongings, ID, whatnot, on my desk. Thank you for the opportunity. Goodbye." So I go back. And by the way, meanwhile, I find out that this attorney was an unnamed partner. So there was some sort of office politics going on where he was good enough to be partner, but they refused to make him partner. 2, he had been an attorney for about 30 years. He was a judge and a member of Mensa. And he was very nice. Very, very nice. But he always looked at me with a very, very serious, sober face. Very rarely did I see him smile. But he was he was courteous. I remember one time he came out and he said, "Do you know how to file a motion?" I said, "No." I was supposed to go down to the courthouse and file motions for him, which I had no clue how to do that. So he said, "Okay, I'm just going to have someone else do this for me." Everything he asked me, I said, "No, I don't know how to do it. They're not training me. Nobody's here to tell me what to do." So I sent my resignation email. I didn't even get a reply from the hiring manager. Left my key card, ID, or whatever it was. And I heard him from the other office say, "Hey, I have a question for you. So I walked in. He said, I have one more favor to ask you. I said, what is it? He said, would you mind updating my resume? So I do. And I said goodbye to him. I thanked him for his time. He said, you know, you seem like a very nice person and very, very capable, but this job needs somebody with at least 20 years experience. I said, I know. I was trying to tell the hiring manager that this whole time. It was obvious to me I wasn't a fit. So he laughed and I left him. And I think it was 2 weeks later, I was curious. So I got out on their website and his profile was gone. So he rode off into the sunset after I did. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that story and have a good day, and I'll see you next time.